I got 6 o'clock.
I get 6. Yep. And I'm recording.
Are we still waiting on Amber?
No, I see her on there.
What you got?
Oh, she's here. Okay, so we're ready?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular monthly meeting and organizational meeting, January 11th, 2021. Call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Present.
Mr. Sewell,
Present.
Mr. Dahmer, Mrs. Clark,
Present.
and Mr. Shooty.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the
to the flag
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Section 2, adoption of the agenda. I need a motion.
So be.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Shooty.
Yes. Section 3.1, do I have a nomination for board president?
I nominate David Shooty.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
I would accept the nomination. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Abstain.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Abstain. Okay, 4.2, we have the oath of office.
Yeah, 3.2 actually, yes.
3.2, I corrected it.
So okay, this is the first for me. So I guess we both have to stand up and you have to raise your right hand and then repeat after me. I'll say, do you, and then you state your name. So do you
David Shooting,
solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America, Constitution of the State of Ohio, and then you will faithfully perform and discharge your duties as president of the Board of Education in the Hamilton Local School District, Franklin County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office until your successor is elected and qualified.
I will.
All right, thank you.
Okay, 3.3. I'd like to make a nomination that Jeff Sewell be vice president. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, but Dave, we really don't need a second when it comes to nominations. It's just a nominate and then, because when you take a second, you're halfway there.
Right, okay. Is there any other nominations? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell, Jeff, Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes.
All right, Jeff, I need you to stand up, please. And raise your right hand. And then I'll say, do you, and you repeat after me. Do you? You can't hear you.
Jeff Sewell.
There we go. solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and you will faithfully perform and discharge your duties as Vice President of the Board of Education in the Hamilton Local School District, Franklin County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office until your successor is elected and qualified.
I do.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, we're down to, excuse me, 3.5, student liaison.
I'll nominate Mr. Dahmer if he'd be interested in that position.
If you're taking seconds, I'll second that, but
Mr. Dahmer, do you accept it?
Would accept.
Okay.
Did he accept it?
I believe he did.
I think he said yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I did accept it.
It's okay.
Just checking.
Yeah, I don't want to overstep.
Yeah.
So do we need a vote for this one?
Yeah. So
Okay.
do you vote.
Call the roll.
Mr. Ober,
yes,
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Abstain.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes.
Amber, okay.
Okay, 4.6, we have legislative liaison.
3.6, Dave.
3.6, I'm
Yep.
sorry.
You good?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Obert if he'd be willing to accept.
well, you were quick, brother. I was just getting ready to nominate you.
I've done it for 2 years, and I know that you did a great job of it before when you served previously. So I thought we could share the wealth. Don't worry, I'll always add on if I feel like you missed something, though. I promise.
Yeah, I accept it.
Second.
Jeff, second it? Okay. All right. Roll call, Mr. Obert.
Yes, I'm not going to stain on myself. I'm going to say
All
yes.
right, that's fine. Mr. Sewell. Mr. Sewell, is that good?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes.
All right, good.
Okay, so maybe I can get back on track here.
Yeah,
Section
4.1.
Section 4 is public participation.
We have none.
We have none. Section 5 is items from the board.
Yep.
Mr. Obert.
I sometimes when I say things, they don't come across the way that I wish they would. I'm not really that good of a speaker, but what I got to say tonight, I hope everybody understands me. One of the hardest things in getting age is you lose the people that taught you character and who you are. And my heart goes out to Mike Morbitzer. I know what it's like to lose a dad, and I know what he's going through. I want to talk about an addiction. It's something that we had a previous employee of the school district, and they brought Channel 4 into our school system, and it was about how addictive drugs are, and all the time that he was two-facing us on this, he himself was involved. And a lot of people didn't understand why I got so angry and mad. And if you remember, I was the one that went down to face him across the table. I wanted to look him in the face. Addiction is probably one of the toughest things for a child or a spouse or an individual to go through. I went to a funeral, and I'm not going to mention names, but this young man wrestled with my son. He was here in my home. His family and my family have been a long history, way before I even moved out here. And the addiction got to him and it killed him. And he wrestled with my son, such a competitor in life. And a young lady that played baseball with my daughter on our team, the same thing happened to her. And we used to have a community group that it ended up a Christmas thing. It just couldn't get off of the Christmas baskets and the gifts. But our community, when it comes to addiction, isn't any different than any other community around. And it's something that, it doesn't say we're worse or better. It just says we got the same problems. And it's one thing about educating our young adults, our young people, and then watching them die. And if we're really, truly part of education, then we need a format somehow to reach them. I know that some of the children that we educate come from homes that's a pretty common practice there. But the two athletes that I know of, it wasn't in their home. They got it from the streets and they got it from the school. We have to accept the fact that there's a problem, and we need to be able to get some groups. I mean, there's groups out there that can help young adults. I was blessed with an alcoholic father. I say blessed because when I came to face the same demons that he did, I watched somebody who I admired recover. And maybe if I didn't see that, maybe I would have been one of the ones that didn't make it. But some way, somehow, we have to come up with programs that's offered. If it's a local Al-Anon group or a local Al-Anon group for spouses, we need to have that information in our schools. Not to ask somebody if they want this or need it, just to have it, that if they can look at it, they may take it. They may need it. They may be saved by it. I know it's that's I hope I got that message across. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ober. Mr. Dahmer.
I want to also send my condolences to the Morbitzer family on the passing of Mike's dad. I know they're all real big in the community, and the community lost somebody that the shoes could never really be filled there. Also, want to welcome everybody back to school. Happy we're able to get the kids back in hybrid starting next week. Want to reiterate to the community, continue doing what we're doing, wear the mask, social distancing. We'll all get through this. and we'll all be stronger in the end. Also want to wish luck to all the sports teams as they start to compete, and just want to thank everybody for being patient with us, and just continue to be that way. And like Mr. Tyler said, just be flexible, and hopefully we can get the kids back in full time at some point. So that's all I got.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dahmer. Mr. Sewell? Is he there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you now.
Okay. Well, I'm going to piggyback off the first two gentlemen that spoke about the Morbitzer family. I grew up with the Morbitzer family. I was between all three of them in age, and I know each and every one of them. I knew my best friend through high school his mother was a Morbitzer, so I know the whole family. I knew their grandmother. I knew them all. It was a very nice service. I will say that. Mr. Mike Morbitzer, the man of words he is, put together some very nice words. It was very well done. The community did lose a very intelligent man. Mike didn't just fall into that by accident. His dad was a very witful and very smart man. So my condolences to him, his wife, and his children, and all the other Morbitzers as well, Mr. and Mrs. Wilburn, and Debbie and her boyfriend, the other children, and their grandchildren as well. It was, like I said, it was a very nice service and very well done. And like I said, we lost a good person there, and I feel for the Morbitzer family. I know they've been through a lot. Carol and Mike have been through a lot this last couple of weeks, and I know the Wilburn family, they lost both their grandfathers within 2 months. So it's been a rough run for the whole family. And they were all very involved with the district. They were very good students, and I know they've all played a role as a lot of their kids went through school here as well. So best wishes to them as they move forward. I hope everybody had a great, safe, and joyous holiday season. Look forward to 2021 being, as Mr. Dahmer stated, we can get everybody back in school in this hybrid situation and things go smoothly. Everybody, please wear your mask, do what we're supposed to do. Everybody, I think we had a good thing going there when we were in school.
Mhm.
I think everybody was doing pretty well with it. We were able to keep the distance, and hopefully we can fall back into that, and we can have a safe restart. I don't really have any much more to say on the liaison side. I'd welcome Mr. Dahmer to the position. The last year or so, I was trying to get into the schools to be able to reflect some things back through the community, through people involved in different programs. And it's just been a hard thing to do, obviously. So I know Carol and Mike and Vince and I had worked on some things. I just never really got to do some of them this past year. So I would advise you to look into maybe talking to the three of them in some directions. So that's all I have, Mr. Schutte, President Schutte. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Clark?
Thank you, President Schutte. I'll start by giving a quick legislative update. I honestly can't remember what was already done when we met last month in between then and now. So just a quick overview. Senate Bill 358 was signed into law, which provided a lot of flexibility for school districts around evaluations and substitute teachers, licensing, deadlines, things like that. It did not include as much flexibility around state testing as some hoped, but given the change in federal government, we will likely have some bills come up early in the next session that might look to provide some waivers, because previously the former Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos, who recently resigned, was not going to grant any waivers to states for federal testing. And so now that she is no longer the education secretary, that may or may not change. Also signed into law was House Bill 404, which continues to prohibit the use of state testing value-added data in teacher and principal and school evaluations through this year. And I also wanted to touch on a bill that did not pass or did not get movement through in this session, and that was House Bill 305, Senate Bill 376, which were the two companion bills that addressed school funding. And unfortunately, although it was over a year and a half in the making, 2 years in the making to gather input, develop that bill, the legislators waited until the last minute and then, quote, didn't have enough time to act on that. And so here we are entering a new legislative session, and that will have to be a new bill that gets reintroduced with new numbers and everything. So we'll be looking to see that happen early and hope that there'll be action soon. I do plan on presenting to you all a resolution that we could consider at our next board meeting that just calls on our legislators to act on this issue. And so be looking for that. And with that also, I don't know if I didn't have a chance to talk to Mr. Collier in advance of this meeting, but to ask if he has any info on it already, but there's a lawsuit by a group called the Ohio Coalition for Equity and Advocacy, I think. And they are working on a lawsuit related to school funding and vouchers and that issue. And so I was wondering if you knew anything about it or how that would affect us or.
No, not yet. That's Bill Phillis. He's been an
Yeah.
advocate for years, but no, there's nothing came out like any specifics and stuff yet for like our district and stuff. So yeah.
Bill Phillis, he was the one who was involved in a lawsuit previously, the Duroff lawsuit that ruled our state system
like 40 years ago, right?
Yeah, a long time ago. He's
Right.
still active now, bringing another lawsuit to the state about the same issue, slightly different, but and he's looking to try to get school districts to sign on to that to get momentum and hopefully get action. I do have a little a bullet list of info about it that I'll share with all of you, and there we could consider that at our next board meeting as well, with input on Mr. Collier, of course.
Yep.
So that concludes my legislative report. Personally, I reiterate what my colleagues have said about the issues they spoke to already, but I did want to, I'm sure Mr. Tyler will in his report give us some updates on, we all know that we're going to be returning to school in our blended model soon. I'm sure he'll have an update as far as vaccine rollout for our staff members and where we are with those things. But I just wanted to share with you all my concerns related to the most recent study that was completed at the state level regarding quarantine rules. Mr. Tyler has given us information each individually as board members about that. So I know you all are aware of it, but none of us have actually been able to see the whole study because it has not been fully published. It's just the preliminary data that they're sharing and basing their new recommendations on. And so some school districts, it sounds like, are starting to take this information, which what it does is, changes the amount of distancing that would qualify as close contact and require a full quarantine period if students are properly masked in a classroom based on the results of this one study. And I have issues, with the data that has been released from the study, but kind of waiting to see what the full picture is there. But mostly, it's concerning that some schools are thinking about having a full return based on this information, because although we might be in the classroom, let's say that the data is correct and that there is no increased risk of spread, as they put it, to students that are within that 6 feet bubble versus the other students in the classroom or in the classroom next door. Well, even if that's the case, we're risking a lot by doing this, because we've seen our numbers stay pretty low. And then we brought back sports, and now we're kind of up there again. But that kind of, the classroom itself might be able to stay separated, but as soon as we get into the hallways and the lunch rooms and the logistics of everything else, the masks don't stay on properly. Maybe in the classroom and maybe even on the bus, the adults can monitor and ensure that the proper mask wearing happens. But outside of that, we immediately then have, issues of congregant settings that seems incredibly risky when we're looking at case numbers almost at 1,000 per 100,000 in our school district zone. So that's all I have on that. And thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Dave, real quick, Amber, I could probably simplify that really quickly. Our head nurse, Kathy Bricky, and I discussed this, and really, this most recent updates don't impact us in any way because we've not had situations where students would have been within 6 feet to consider any kind of quarantine with them. We've not had to quarantine our classroom, so that's really not changing. Your issue about would this reduce the amount of social distancing? In our situation, even if we wanted to, and this has been the case from Jump Street, from back in August, we could have always come back completely. We could have been in school with every kid every day from August. The reason why we chose not to was simply because our county, for the purposes of contact tracing, is going to use 6 feet as their standard. As long as they're using 6 feet as a standard, the way we view it, as soon as we have a student or staff member who's a case, then everybody around them, everywhere they've been, then has to go into quarantine. And we felt that very quickly, we could be in a situation we could have more people quarantined than if we'd have just been in 50-50 in the first place. As long as we're in the 50-50 model, it really doesn't impact us. This is exactly what we've been doing since August. As far as reducing that number from 6 feet down to 3 feet, we wouldn't be able to really consider that until our county made a decision to do that differently. And at this point, they have not discussed that, as per my last conversation with them, which would have been a week ago from Tuesday.
They released something yesterday, a statement saying that they're looking at what the governor has came out with, and that they're considering that they're going to be coming out with something, and they didn't really say what, but I have
a 9 o'clock with them tomorrow, so we'll see if they address that. But as per a week ago, so last Tuesday, they at this point had not reduced the social distancing capacity. Now, if they do, then we have a decision to make at some point. But until that would occur, nothing in that release changes anything for us. It is completely business as usual. That's it. I just want to address that really quickly. Yeah, that new guidance doesn't impact us as of now.
Okay. Well, thank you. And as for me, my condolences to Mike and Carol. I'm so sorry that this happens. Not a whole lot. Anyhow, I'm so sorry that anyone has to go through that. And I know everyone does. But again, my condolences. And again, just very, very sorry. Okay, moving on. I believe I'm into section 6.
Dave, real quick, there is a vote in 5, a vote to establish our meeting dates.
Okay, I have that as 6, so it's 5.4.
Yes, it's
5.4.
5.4. Yes.
Okay, yeah, my number sequence is still messed up. So
Yeah. Okay.
okay, so in 5.4 is our meeting dates. I need a motion.
So be.
second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Shooting.
Yes. So, okay. So is 6.1 treasurer's report?
Yep, I just got one thing. Remember we switched to the new system, and we had a successful calendar year in, which I know doesn't mean a lot to you guys, but for us, it was very stressing. And but everything went well, and was able to close out the calendar year, and everything worked out perfectly. So I just want to put a shout out to the three ladies in my office, Kim, Barb, and Sarah. They did a great job. So I'm very happy.
Okay, so thank you. Let's see, it looks like section 7.
Yep,
I have
there's 6 items.
6 items,
Yep.
and I need a motion.
So move.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes. So I'm in section 9, superintendent's report.
Thanks, President Schutte. Very quickly, as many of our board members have said, I want to welcome our students back as of the 19th. Extremely excited to get back to in-person instruction, and obviously the goal is going to be to stay there for the remainder of the year. We're going to do our very, very best, but definitely excited to see kids back in these buildings. It's a tough place without them. Vaccinations, as Ms. Clark spoke about there a moment ago. I do want to give an update on that, but board members, apologies. It's not a significant update from what I've told you already. There's just not new information. We've been working with Franklin County Health Department, obviously, and I've been working trying to even reach out preemptively before there's even a plan on how we're going to address the Tier 1B individuals. I'm trying to reach out to hospitals and urgent cares and anybody to just see if I can get an on-site partner. But at this point, the information is just a little too fuzzy for anybody to really commit to that. So we're working towards that goal. But what I've shared thus far is that our Tier 1A employees, which is pretty much anybody that works in our clinic in our districts, it's roughly about 10 employees. We were able to get them scheduled last week for vaccines. Actually, today was the first day. I think it's today and tomorrow that our staff members, those roughly 10 employees, were able to go and get their vaccines. Everybody else who works in a school is classified under Tier 1B. And my understanding at this point is Tier 1B vaccinations will occur the end of this month, early February. But as far as the structure of that, we still don't. The current structure is there's basically a spreadsheet that individuals go in, they receive an email, they go in and they put their information down. They're then scheduled to go up somewhere on Morse Road and get that vaccine. And my hope for the Tier 1B folks would be that we could administer those things on site, much the same way we would with the flu vaccine. At this point, that's a goal, but the groups that we're reaching out to just don't have enough information on if they're going to have that, if they'll have the ability to do that. So I just don't know at this point. I do know that we should be able to receive these things by the end of the month. Again, I referenced my call with the health department. That's tomorrow at 9 a.m. So hopefully I'll have more information at that call, and I'll get that out to board members as soon as I know something. But at this point, that's where we stand with vaccinations. And like everybody else has said, and I obviously want to extend my congratulations, my condolences one more time to the Morbitzer family. I had an opportunity to do that throughout this last week. And on a selfish note, it has given me some opportunity to have some really good conversations with Mike and Carol, some things out of that personally that I'll kind of treasure moving forward. But Mike, how I feel about you. God bless, buddy. And President Schutte, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. I'm into section 9. I have one item. I need a motion.
So be it.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes. Section 10, I have one item. I need a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Sorry about that. Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes. Section 11. I have one item. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Can you remind me what exactly that is? What we're voting on? I don't have that here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, these are two extracurricular positions. It's a position for a third contract winter event manager. I'm sorry, no. It's two extracurriculars. These are classified positions. We have a cheerleading coach and a assistant wrestling.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Shooty.
Yes. All right, invite use for executive session.
Yes, sir.
We don't have any tabled items.
No, we do not.
I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Obert,
Yes.
Mr. Sewell,
Yes.
Mr. Dahmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
and Mr. Shooty.
Yes.
6:36 PM.